Well, it's powerful to echo your brother. It blew me away too. And I would recommend, if you get too depressed by it, you do what you go to the children's section of your local public library and get all of his other books, because they will immensely cheer you up. I would like to throw open, Tim, do you have, we've got a roving mic here, and I would like you to ask some questions that are on your mind here. Just put your hand up and Tim will come see you.
Wonderful, wonderful book. Thank you. My question has to do with the White Rabbit as the analyst therapist. It really was a powerful image for me that the character who leads away from reality is also the one who leads back into reality.
Yeah.
And my question is, considering your attachment to the Alice in Wonderland series, were there any other characters from Alice that were healing for you as you worked through all this?
There's plenty of Alice references in the book, but no, I didn't use any other characters in Stitches except the White Rabbit. But oh, you mean any that I react to? God, I just love that book. You know, there's just so many. It's just so rich, and I don't want to see Johnny Depp in lipstick. Illuminated. I want those Tennille, you know, illustrations in the original language. It's just, I have such respect for that thing. Even though I didn't really enjoy it as a child, actually, I love the movie, the Disney version. Yeah. But later on, when I went back and read, you know, Lewis Carroll, and got the, as a college kid, and got the social satire. But as a kid, you know, I mean, I just liked the whole thing. Just want to comment though on the White Rabbit and why I used that. I knew I had to talk about my analyst. I had to. He's the man who saved my life. But I dreaded the whole idea of illustrating the whole thing about psychoanalysis, because there's nothing less cinematic than two people talking together in a room. What are you going to do? You know, you can move the camera from one to the other. You can put the camera on the floor and look up their nose. You can put it on the ceiling. But you know, it doesn't. It's really quite limited. So I wasn't looking forward to illustrating that at all. And also, I didn't know how I was going to illustrate the process of analysis, the slow revelations that came there. And finally, I talk a lot with friends about my worries, and I fret a lot. And every once in a while, somebody will throw something out. And a friend of mine one night, when I was talking about this very thing, said, "Well, why don't you make it into a little fairy that sits on your shoulder and it talks to you?" And I tried that, and it was the right idea, but it was the wrong character. And then one day, I just drew him as the rabbit. And that came out of my subconscious, I think, but it makes perfect sense, because in Alice, the rabbit, as you say, is the usher into the underworld of nonsense in that book. But in fact, he's the usher world into the subconscious, where things are told truths are told in dream metaphors. And that's what my analyst was. He was my usher into my subconscious. The one thing I took away mainly in those 10 years as a youth was how to interpret my dreams and how to enjoy them on a dream level, but also to understand how they related to me in my life. And anyway, that's why I did that to him. I called Harold up when the book came out and sent him a copy. We've kept in touch. He's 87 now. He lives in a home in Cambridge, in Boston, and I said, "Well, how did you like the book?" And he said, "I loved it, David, I loved it." He said, "You're wonderful. I just have one question. Why did you make me a bunny?" I I said, Harold, it's not a bunny, it's the white rabbit. He said, I know, but it's still a bunny. It's such a Freudian. A bunny is a bunny.
Are there any other questions right here in the corner, Tim?
I'm intrigued by the way you do faces, of course, and the glasses, for example, and how they hide the eyes, and then your father with the pipe. But your mother at the bridge party, you had that one line that there was something in her face that you hadn't seen before.
She became a different person in those groups of women.
But you didn't do anything else with that. I mean,
She just made her look more relaxed, and there is a noticeable difference in the woman's face in those scenes. Yeah. I guess you're just giving me a compliment, huh? The whole thing about the glasses, and the use of eyes, I think is a good thing, a good observation. I used those reflections on the glasses the first time in that dinner scene that's in the film at the beginning, and then used it thereafter because I realized it was a great way of disguising what people were thinking. And so when you take that light away and actually show the person's eyes, it's a very startling effect. I was interested to hear lately from Francis Ford Coppola's cinematographer who died recently, and I've forgotten his name. Famous guy, Gordon something. He did the same thing in The Godfather, but in a different way, with a different medium. He wanted to disguise what the guys were thinking, and so he did all this overhead lighting, which left their eyes basically these caves of darkness, which Diane Keaton and the actresses in the film despised him for when they saw the rushes, because it made everybody look like skulls. But it was a very, very effective way of and of course widely copied ever since, way in the cinema of disguising somebody's eyes. You know, if there is ever a film made of stitches, I can't see how they're going to shine lights on the glasses all the time to get that reflection for the same. They'll have to work out some other way. But that's how I did it in the book. Good observation.
I was just curious, you talked about part of the process of doing this for yourself was almost like a substitute for analysis, that you really wanted to go into this.
Yes.
How did it affect you personally to get this story out there?
Well,
can you hear it in the far back?
Could you hear what she said?
Okay.
You know, one of the things because I couldn't find another analyst, because I didn't have an analyst, because I never will find another Harold, I had to become Harold with myself. And I used the techniques that he used. If this makes sense, there was a me that just watched me behave, that watched me drawing, watched all this stuff pouring out, and just let it happen. And there was a me that let me cry, and there was a me that let me get irrational and say the craziest shit you can imagine. And then there was a me that sat back and said, okay, David, you know, I love you. And you know, it's okay. I learned that from him, and it stayed with me all my life. I think it saved my life. I can't say. But I can't say what my life would have been without it. And so that whole process of you know, being in therapy with myself, crazy as it seems, was a way of loving myself more. And I feel different now. I feel very different from the person I was even 3 years ago. I feel like a big cinder block has been lifted off my back. I didn't know what to do with myself, you know, in this state. We were talking about depression. I kind of miss my depressions in a way.